Hi team, you know what it is. We are back. Whoops. Not the first time I've overshot the mark, so to speak. You know what it is. We are back with another dose of spiritual bleach. If you are on the path of awakening, the path of enlightenment, or you are engaged in the process of trying to gain a deeper understanding of the infinite universal consciousness model, you may have come across one or both of the following statements. 1, nobody becomes enlightened. There is no such thing as an enlightened person. Nobody actually ever becomes awakened. It's not possible for a person to become enlightened. Or 2, everybody is already enlightened. There is no such thing as a being that is not enlightened. All beings are already awakened. Now, it may at first seem as though those two statements are at opposite end of the spectrum, that we can't reconcile the two, that we can't have both existing at the same time. It may appear that there is some dissonance there, that they contradict. But ultimately, we find on deeper understanding that both of these statements actually do work together. They are alluding to the same truth. They are pointing to the same truth. But it can be very confusing and slightly frustrating, particularly when it's the same teacher that alternates between saying those two statements. You do find that does happen. The same teacher sticking to the same practice alternates between those two statements. 1, there's no possible way a human being, a person, cannot become enlightened. It never happened. It has never once happened. Interesting, right? And also, everyone's already enlightened. You already are. You already are awake. Call off the search, so to speak. Now, that's the point of spiritual bleach. We like to try and burn through some of the confusion. And I call myself a spiritual teaching assistant. I just like to clarify a little about what is meant by this. What did the teacher mean? Because this is one of those very confusing ones that it does take some understanding. And yes, we are looking at experiential understanding, not cognitive understanding. Cognitive understanding takes us some of the way, but ultimately we have to experience this for ourselves. And hopefully, with a little disambiguation today, hopefully we can start moving ourselves towards the real felt experienced understanding. Now, I've always found it quite a frustrating statement. Both of those statements I found quite frustrating when there's no further clarification, there's no further explanation. And you see it a lot in comments on videos like this one, videos from other speakers like this one. You will usually find it in the comment section somewhere saying everyone's already enlightened or nobody could ever become enlightened, with no further clarification. But I also find it particularly frustrating when it's the teacher that says that with no further clarification. To me, that's a little bit like going to a personal trainer saying I want to get fit, and they go, nope, nobody ever got fit. What's the no point. Don't even bother trying. You're already fit. You are already fit and nobody ever became fit. So, don't worry about it. It's like, well, then what are we doing here? Why would I come to you? Why are you calling yourself a personal trainer if we're not going to do that? What's going on here? So, I want to explain a little bit about what is meant by those two statements, how they work together, and then how those pointings can bring us to that real felt experienced understanding. Let's not lose sight of that. That's what we're trying to get to. We want to really experience this spiritual awakening. It has to be experienced for reasons that I'm about to go into, but it has to be, because it's only upon the experienced realization, it's only upon the revelation that all of the illusions vanish, that all of the delusions are dissolved, that all of our ignorance evaporates. Any cognitive understanding is just a further part of the ignorance. It can help to bring us to the experiential understanding, but if we get too bogged down in the cognition of things, the thinking of things, we just end up weaving more illusions. And that's how we keep ourselves stuck in the matrix. We keep ourselves stuck in the Maya. So let's see if we can bring ourselves to a felt understanding here. So let's just slow this down a little. Let's bring ourselves into that contemplative, that meditative understanding. So let us begin with the statement of nobody ever becomes enlightened. What is meant by that? So the metaphor that I'm going to use today is of the movie and how the character in the movie relates to the screen is a very apt metaphor for how the ego relates to consciousness. Consciousness is the screen on which the movie is playing. The ego is one of the characters within the movie. So we're just using that as the metaphor to just bring ourselves into a slower, deeper understanding here. Because this will allow, look, we don't want the character to just vanish and evaporate completely. Okay, so we're just recognizing the ego, meaning the belief that you are limited to one temporary body and mind, that you are fully believing and invested in one singular character, one singular narrative within the movie. That's the ego. The character within the movie with all the problems, with all of the troubles, with all of the strife, with all of that going on. But consciousness, which is your awareness of being, your conscious awareness of being now, that is consciously aware of the character. Consciously aware of the character. You, awareness, have been aware of this character unfolding this entire time. You have watched this character go through this individual narrative in exactly the same way that the screen has been present throughout the entire movie. The screen was there, displaying the character this entire time. But why don't we notice it? One, because it's always there. And two, we're fixated on the character. We're paying attention to the character. And because we pay attention to the character, we stop realizing that we're actually watching a screen. We're watching light on a screen. There's no character there. There is no character. You are the awareness that is observing the character. Right? So let's already do this. Let's get into the felt, experienced understanding right here. Are you consciously aware of your being now? The answer to that question has to be yes. Now, what you are aware of will most likely be one individual character within the body and mind, with all of its beliefs, with all of its projections, with all of its delusions, with all of its illusions, all of it. Fine, absolutely, not a problem at all. But just start to recognize that you are that which is aware of that. You are the screen that is aware of that character. And here we're starting to get into experienced understanding of the realization, of the awakening. Ah, okay, I'm not the character. Now, we don't have to hate on the character. We don't have to try and get rid of the character just yet. Only all that is necessary to do is recognize, oh, I wasn't the character this whole time, I was the screen. Have you ever been watching a horror movie and been so invested in the horror movie that you start to have physiological reactions? Heart beating, sweating, you keep jumping at all the jump scares, nervous, all tightened up in the suffering of the characters. Can you remember the relief that is felt upon that recognition? It's just a movie. Whew, that's a relief. I forgot. I was so invested in the story, I forgot I was watching a movie. But now, I have remembered. Self-remembering. I have remembered I am watching a movie. I have woken up to the truth. I am not the movie. I am not a character in the movie. I'm watching it. This is how realization, enlightenment, awakening is felt. Relief. Relief. Oh, I'm watching a character. Boy, is that a relief. So, that's the metaphor by which we're going to explore a little further into these two statements. So let's take a look at nobody becomes enlightened. Well, essentially, the character in the movie can do anything. Anything. There's an infinite number of things that the character in the movie can do within the internal logic of the movie. The character can go this way, that way, do loads of different things within the narrative. There's an almost infinite multiplicity, diversity of experiences the character can have. Get lost in this, that, is sometimes up, sometimes down, sometimes trouble, sometimes strife, sometimes failing, sometimes succeeding, and so on and so on and so on. Sound familiar? But the one thing that the character cannot do is know that it is a character. That is the only thing that the character in the movie can never do, is know that it is a character in the movie. Why? Because the moment that it does so, it ceases to be a character. And that is what is meant here. No person ever becomes enlightened. Because upon the recognition, upon the realization, there is no longer a character there. Freedom. Freedom from samsara. Freedom from suffering. Freedom from maya. Freedom, escaping the matrix, right? Escaping the matrix. Freedom is freedom from the person. It is freedom from the character. It is not freedom for the character. Because the enlightenment is to recognize that you are the screen and not actually the character. So the reason that statement is often said, nobody becomes enlightened, is actually to kind of protect you from a kind of trap that can happen, to protect you from a sort of spiritual ego that can develop. Because if the character believed, let's say, I don't know, just gonna pick a random Captain America. I don't know why Captain America comes to mind whenever I think of a character, but Captain America. If Captain America thought he was enlightened, but didn't know that he was just a character on the screen, then he would not be enlightened. So we could use the statement, no character could ever be enlightened. No ego could ever be enlightened. Why? Because upon true realization, upon true recognition and awakening to the truth of consciousness, the character ceases. The enlightenment is not for the character. The character cannot become free. As long as the character is under the delusion, stuck in the belief, I am this character, liberation is not possible. Liberation is to observe the character and realize the true position of your true identity, the true being, the true self, Brahman. Brahman is the screen upon which all of the characters are being played. So if Captain America started acting all enlightened and saying, I am enlightened, I've woken up to the truth, but has not yet realized that he's actually a character in a movie, some of the other characters might say, I don't believe you, matey boy, sonny boy. There's something just seems a bit phony about this. The real ones, and this is when you get the real Jnanis coming in, like, the Ramana Maharshi, the Muji Baba, the Krishnamurtis, the Jesus Christs. They're the ones who woke up to the real truth. Oh, I am not this character. There is something far bigger going on here. And that's what we all are. This is why Jesus said, I and the Father are one. That is what is meant. I am not this one. This is flesh and bone. This is a flesh and bone vessel. But the truth, the real truth, which is why Ramana Maharshi just always spoke of just realize the truth. It is not necessary to kill a rope that one believes to be a snake. One simply needs to realize the truth. There is no snake. It was a rope that looked like a snake. You don't need to kill it. Just realize the illusion. But that is why then that individual ceases to be a character, which is why a lot of sages and saints just go silent. Nothing left to say. In the same way that if Captain America really realized he was in a movie, do you think he'd still be interested in doing all that fighting? All of that rushing around, all of that suffering, all of that strife, all of that turmoil? Would any of that be necessary anymore? If Captain America really did, oh wow, okay, right, I get it now. Whoa, okay, right, this is a movie. The mission would probably change, right? Everyone just shut up. Everyone shut up. Avengers, stand down. I've figured it out. This is just a movie. Which is what the true Jnani does. Comes along and says, everyone shut up. There's nothing to be done. Right? Let's just realize the truth, and there will be no further problems on Earth. So, freedom from the person, not freedom for the person. And so, a little bit, now look, I'm going to use a slightly different metaphor, the metaphor of the moth and the flame. I know you shouldn't mix your metaphors, but I like my metaphors like I like my kebabs, mixed. If we have a moth and a flame, the moth is drawn to the flame. The moment the moth touches the flame, it is immolated. So that is what is meant. There is no enlightenment for the person, because upon enlightenment, the person is gone. The ego is gone. The mask is gone. The illusion has vanished. So the statement is correct. No person can be enlightened. No ego can be enlightened. I will just clarify slightly, because there is a little bit of complication here, slight bit of complication, in that occasionally you have movies in which the character breaks the fourth wall. And that term means, if you imagine this space here, there's two walls next to me, imagined, and a wall behind me. The screen is the fourth wall. So I'm speaking through the fourth wall right now, essentially. And occasionally, it can appear as though a character in the movie is aware, has become self-aware, and then speaks to the audience directly. And it would appear, to all appearances, it seems as though the character has woken up to the truth. But we know this is just a very clever bit of narrative trickery. So that's where we find the fake gurus, right? The fake Jnanis. They do exist. Although I will just add to that, there are far more fake seekers than there are fake teachers. One to watch out for. Little Brucey bonus, side order of spiritual fries right there. Watch out for the fake seekers, not the fake teachers. But sometimes Deadpool, for one example, breaks the fourth wall all the time. Shakespeare characters broke the fourth wall all the time, spoke directly to the audience, right? So that does sometimes happen, but this is why we just need to keep elevating consciousness, elevating consciousness, elevating consciousness. Let's just see the trickery. Breaking the fourth wall is a narrative trick that's been going on since the dawn of storytelling. It's a red herring. So, that's the one about nobody becomes enlightened. Let's take that second statement then. Everybody is already enlightened. What? Yawa? So every character knows they're a character? Beware? That doesn't work, does it? Well, let's just clarify. Let's see what is meant by this. What is meant there is that no matter what the character does, says, think, feel, or believe, it doesn't really matter, because regardless of what they do, they are the screen anyway. They're already the screen. There is a very deep understanding that can be felt. There's a huge relief, essentially, when you go, oh, right, so even the character that is fully invested in being a character doesn't have any choice about being a character in the first place. They are already light on a screen, meaning they are already consciousness. That's it. There's no way you can go from there. You're already consciousness. And let's just bring it right back in. Experiential understanding, as always. Are you aware of your current experience? Now, what you are aware of isn't quite so interesting. We're not interested. Just become interested in, are you aware of your current experience? Are you conscious of your experience? That consciousness is the screen on which everything is being played. Whether what's being played is the taste of a delicious cup of tea, or worried about tomorrow's email, or the sight of an aeroplane over there. These are all just things appearing within consciousness. Everything appears within consciousness. So, what is meant by the statement, you're already awakened, you are already enlightened, is just that. The consciousness is always there, regardless of what you say, think, feel, or believe. Now, this can be slightly misleading, because sometimes people then call off the search a bit too early. They go, oh, good. Oh, great. I don't need to do any further work there. There's no more spiritual work needed. There's no more introspection needed. No more meditation needed. No more emotional work needed, right? That's where I guess each individual has to use some emotional maturity, some spiritual maturity, some wisdom, some discernment. You really should figure that one out for yourself. Is there something further to just work through here? Or has the true realization been found? Has it been seen? Only you're going to know that. But what is meant by everyone's already enlightened, this can be a very powerful pointing. It's something that's quite necessary, because there's a lot of people who have got such repressed shame cause and have got such low self-worth and self-esteem as a result. They think, well, enlightenment's not for me. I can't do it. I'm just silly little me with all of my original sin, with all of my bad karma, with all of my generational trauma, with all of my biological flaws and faults. These are just different ways of saying the same thing. Repressed shame. There's a lot of people with so much of that they think, well, I'll never do it. I'll never awaken. I can't, not me, not poor little me. There's no way I could do it. I'm just useless, right? Repressed shame. That's what that is. So recognize, oh, hang on a minute, that little narrative, that very self-deprecating narrative, a load of rubbish, a load of absolute garbage, can be discarded immediately. That is a belief that will keep you trapped in the Maya. That is a belief that will keep you stuck in samsara, the cycle of suffering, so long. Just by believing, well, I can't do it. I'm somehow flawed. I'm somehow weak. I'm somehow not spiritually fit for this. Incorrect. Incorrect, my brother. Incorrect, my sister. The only prerequisite for enlightenment is being conscious. Bring it right back in, experiential understanding. Are you aware of your current experience? There you go. There you go. Right, there you go, done. Doesn't matter anything. The history doesn't matter, everything you've done so far doesn't matter, past lives don't matter, beliefs don't matter, everything you've done thus far, irrelevant. Just keep going to, I am conscious of my present experience. I am the screen. I am the screen upon which this multiplicity of things is occurring, right? So that's what's meant by everybody is already enlightened. So let's go right there. Let's bring this into a practice right here. Let's just go straight to it. Now, often we're very, very tied up, invested in our belief within the individual body-mind. All of those stories, all of those predictions about the future, all of those memories of the past. Well, let's just take all of that and just bring it into one singular experience now, because we never actually experience a future or a past. We only ever experience the present anyway. So just bring it all into the present. And instead of spending and extending your attention towards all of the stuff that you are aware of, instead, see if you can pull that attention back into itself. Quite a big ask, I know. It's not the easiest thing. We're not used to doing it. Got to retrain a habit. Just pull the attention away from all of the stuff that you're ordinarily so fixated on, and instead just pulling it back into oneself. How interesting. Isn't that a little more peaceful? Feels a little more serene? Feels a little more profound? And this doesn't diminish any of the enjoyment of the body and mind. It actually kind of has the opposite effect. It increases. It's almost like it increases the saturation on everything. Why? Because you've relaxed a bit. No longer so fearful. No longer so... If Captain America did come to the true realization, he might still continue to play along with the movie and would have a much greater time doing it. He'd have a blast, right? He'd have a great time. Oh, knowing it's just a movie. A bit like lucid dreaming. As you awaken, you know, when you're asleep at night, as you're awakening from a dream, you might have a period of lucid dreaming. It's a lot of fun. Could we use that as a little bit of a clue? A clue into the nature of awakening and why it's still enjoyable. It's not to dismiss everything and just sit in a void forever. It's not that we're nothing, it's that we're everything. Because upon the recognition that you're the screen displaying the movie, you realize you are not limited to that one character. You realize you're not limited to that one movie. You're no longer constrained. You are the screen. So you don't need to feel sad when the movie ends, because there will be another one. And you will be the very same screen in every single movie that plays. The movies are so different. From movie to movie, we have different genres, different stories, different characters. But the screen doesn't change. The screen has never changed. The screen remains the screen always. And that conscious awareness that you are now, the awareness of your experience, that's the screen. This is just one of the characters playing. Which is why sometimes we have that kind of phasey? It's not a word. 1 second, I need my coffee. Phasey. I think the word I was looking for is hazy. Hazy memory, or that very deep, eerie feeling that you've been here before. You ever had that feeling? You may get it in meditation or in the spiritual awakening as it happens. You get that really eerie, sometimes unsettling feeling. I think I've been here before. This isn't the first time I've been here. This isn't the first time this has happened. I can't remember vividly, but something's, I think. And then you realize, oh, hang on. What you're actually sensing there is that you've always been here. Because you've always been the consciousness upon which, out of which, everything is playing. Now, I've thrown a lot at you here, so this might be enough, okay? I know I'm trying to keep these videos as short as possible, but just to move that into, just to develop that slightly further, when you're looking at a screen, in fact, no, this is what I was planning on doing. When I feel like going into another explanation, I'm going to cut the video short and I'm going to make a separate video for it, because that's plenty to be dealing with as a self-contained lesson in itself. And I will make a further video next time to deepen this metaphor. So, hopefully that's come some way to explaining those two statements, why teachers or people on the path may say nobody ever becomes enlightened or everyone already is enlightened. Hopefully we've gone a little way to explaining why that's the case there today, and hopefully through that understanding we've come to a slightly deeper experiential understanding, and hopefully beginning to just awaken to this. We don't want the characters to just vanish straight away. That might be a bit much. Instead, just gently recognizing what's going on here. I think that's everything for today, team. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you have gained some kind of benefit from this video at all today. It really helps me out, really helps me to get the word out, get the lessons out there. And you can join the channel memberships. This button down below somewhere, there or there. Gain access to my exclusive guided meditations and talks, and join the Discord chat room, in which you will find a community of like-minded individuals committed to this journey, this process of awakening. Also, channel memberships go a very, very long way to supporting me and my work, and meaning I can make more and more of these videos and deepen deepen the focus and clarity of these videos. Thank you so much for watching today, team. Hope you're well out there. Thank you for doing all of this work. By doing the work that you're doing, by really trying to do the work of this spiritual awakening, you are removing a huge chunk of the suffering out of the common stock of humanity. So thank you for doing it. My gratitude to you. Take care, be well, and stay present.